speaker tonight is Hemi Kim. The Korean American community has been one of the most vocal communities on the issue of legalization, and NAKASEC has been at the forefront of organizing the community. So we wanted to have her focus on what are the principles that we're looking for in a legalization program, and also to share with you all what is coming up for the campaign for comprehensive immigration reform and what you might be able to do to get involved. So, Hemi.
Thank you. My name is Hemi at NAKASEC, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how our organization was founded at a time when a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment was on the rise, starting with Prop 187 for those of you in California, but actually was a nationally known proposition, and other anti-immigrant legislation that started flooding Congress in the mid-1990s. And for that reason, immigrant rights policies have long been a part of the work we do and a priority for our organization. And so thank you for all the panelists and to Prerna for talking about the DREAM Act, which is a really important part of legalization, and it's a component that we expect in any bill that would specifically legalize eligible younger people. And I also wanted to add that we're concerned not only about legalization, but that family-based immigration is inextricably important for our community as well. But for, do people, can you raise your hand if you could tell me, like, what are some of the key elements of any legalization bills? Okay, so I know, so there's a couple people in this room, and I just want to share that for me, the organization that I'm with, we've been doing a lot of this work for a long time, but for me, this is also somewhat newer material as well. And so I just wanted to review some elements that could typically be found in a legalization bill, and depending on how it's written, it could expand coverage of how many people could legalize or contract it. And the goal for any legalization program would be that it would allow for the most number of people to be eligible to legalize. And so one of the first elements would be making sure that eligibility starts with the date of enactment. So you can either have the date be the bill being introduced. So the Gutierrez bill was introduced in December 15, 2009, or the day that it passes, which could be, this year sometime, right? And so we want the later date to mean that anyone who was undocumented before that date to be eligible for a legalization program. And the next few things are related to financial access. We don't want just the wealthiest immigrants to be able to qualify. So we want to make sure that application fees are low, affordable, and per family rather than per person. The same goes with fines. We know that there will be a fine, but again, it should be affordable and it should be per family. And we also expect that any bill with a legalization program will require payment of back taxes. In terms of family members, again, we want to make sure that if one person applies, that their spouse or their children would be able to be absorbed in that application. So you don't have to have, for example, in Prerna's family, like multiple applications going per family member, but you could have one family, excuse me, and that there would be derivative status per applicant. We also want to make sure that people feel confident moving forward that the details of their application will be confidential, and so that they feel comfortable coming forward, and that information wouldn't be used just to deport them or enforce laws that are not related to them applying for legalization. And similar in that process, we want to make sure that it's streamlined. How do you prove that you were undocumented before December 15, 2009? We want to make sure that there are various ways to prove that, including proof of residency and employment. And so one example of that would be like self-affidavits from maybe from your landlord or from your employer without penalty. And a few other items in a legalization program is you would while it wouldn't necessarily expand the number of people who are eligible for legalization, it would give them a conditional non-immigrant visa so that they can work and travel in the meanwhile while they're waiting to apply to be legalized. And also for people who are currently being facing deportation orders or in removal proceedings, that they would be allowed to apply as well. And that in terms of when you're applying to be legalized, that you wouldn't be disqualified for crimes such as using a false social security number, or that you'd have certain crimes that are waived that would acknowledge that that some of the actions you took as someone who was undocumented, those should be waived and not disqualify you from being legalized. And then there are some things that would definitely harm the legalization process, but that we do see arising in different proposals. And one is what's known as triggers, and that's saying that in order for the legalization program to occur, you must first put in place certain enforcement procedures, and we know that could possibly indefinitely delay the process of legalization, to say we have to have border enforcement first. And also another item that we often see is something called touchback, which makes people go back to their country of origin physically and reapply. So those are some elements. And then I was asked to speak briefly about upcoming events. We know that on April 10th, that's just a few weeks away, in 3 cities in Los Angeles, with what we hope to be, or what we're pretty sure will be Senator Barbara Boxer, in Las Vegas with, I believe it's Senator Reid and Representative Luis Gutierrez, and then in Seattle, there will be thousands of people converging for major mobilizations. So if you're from those states or know people in those states, we encourage you to participate there. And finally, on May 1st, there is a group of students who've been walking from Florida to DC 18 miles a day as part of the Trail of Dreams, and they'll be arriving in DC on May 1st. So for those of you who are here, you should put that on your calendar as well.
Great, thanks, Emily. Do you want to give NAKASEC?
Oh, www.nakasec.org.
Great.